Welcome in. That's a tap with CT DJ here to talk about what was undoubtedly a huge pay-per-view event with big ramifications. DJ, I'm excited to chop this one up. What an event. How you feeling?
Man, yeah, what an event indeed. I mean, I'm filled with mixed emotions for obvious reasons. Great event, man. Like fantastic event. Removing some of the results out of the equation, just overall as an MMA fan, I think it was a fantastic event. I think one of the best we've seen in recent times. Very rarely do you see what's on paper get translated to the output, and in this case, it was one such instance. But man, yeah, looking forward to looking into it and sort of talking about the results and looking at what's next. But yeah, more than anything, glad to be here on a Monday evening with you, talking about the card. So yeah, what's up, man? What's up? How you
Yeah,
feeling? How you feeling after that main event?
no doubt. It was a mixture of emotions, like you
Yeah,
said. On the one hand, and we're going to give out our grade as we do
yeah,
for the card overall. But yeah,
yeah,
as a fight fan, we saw a lot of things that you want to see.
yeah,
Obviously personally, um, we'll talk about the main event and and what
yeah,
happened, of course. But
yeah,
yeah, as a whole, uh, yeah, that's the nature of the sport. I feel like we saw
yeah,
everything in one with full
yeah,
circle, with
yeah,
Robert the Reaper Whittaker
yeah.
getting a huge win and bouncing back after getting
Yeah,
basically stopped by Dricus du Plessis. But then, of
yeah,
course, we know what happened in the main event. So let's tackle that. And we have a new featherweight champion, right?
yeah.
Much against all of our predictions,
Oh,
DJ. Um,
so many of us, yeah.
yeah, what's your initial reaction? When it was happening?
Oh man, like, I was in shock. Like I think most of the people were. There's a lot of things to talk about the main event, but I do want to point out UFC 284 representing because we're always team woke. Regardless of what happened, I'm sure he'll bounce back, being the champion he is. But man, look, you gotta give Ilya Topuria his flowers. We said a lot of things leading up to the fight, and we said it could go either way. It could be sheer brilliance, or it could, you could just fall on his face. And it turned out to be, he was extremely confident, and we now see the reason why he was. Very reminiscent of the Conor McGregor title run leading up to the Aldo fight. Not as quick, but as emphatic, I would say. If anything, even more cleaner in terms of having withstanding around against the great Alexander Volkanovski, which was a very close round, which I thought Alex Volkanovski won. Still a very close round, and then coming into the second round, making the adjustments and getting the win. Man, this guy is everything he says he is. There was no. Look, as painful as it was, and we were talking behind the scenes as it was happening, as it happened. How heartbroken we were, and how devastating it was to see Volkanovski in that state, not just once but twice now in a span of 4 months. So yeah, look, it is what it is. Though at the end of the day, Ilya Topuria came in, put on a hell of a performance, and remove yourself from being a Volkanovski fan and from an MMA perspective. That's as clean as a performance as it gets, and the lead up, everything, confidence. Man, this guy is a star. We obviously can see a lot of reports in terms of his social media blowing up, and rightfully so. So the Real Madrid soccer club. Well, I'm not into soccer, but the soccer club obviously backing him and featuring him in their page, which is only going to bring him more fans. And I also bumped upon a video where there were people sending him wishes and some big names like Rafa Nadal in there. So yeah, he's big. He's got the backing, and now he's got the performance and the title to back it up. He seems still ultra confident, and he says this is going to be his era. And for some reason, I believe it, man. I do believe it. I think this performance sort of, and first of all, made me eat my words. I was very confident in my prediction. Yeah, I actually I was confident Volkanovski will get the win, and I was more sort of nervous for Whittaker in terms because of what had happened in the last fight, and knowing how Costa fights. But unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately for Volkanovski, and obviously fortunately for Whittaker, the decisions went the way it did. Man, like I didn't. Do you see that coming? Like, did you see that coming after you've seen the first round? Um, you know, did you see that coming?
Nah, man, I'm definitely not going to say I did, but look, yeah, I agree with you. Volk had a decent start. Obviously, leg kicks was a standout. But as the fight went on, as we started going through the first round and a bit of the second round, I started to get a little nervous for Volk because Ilya Topuria was you could kind of with the feints it was lining him up.
Yeah,
Um, and then once he got him against the cage, it was sort of like it was that was the end, And
yeah,
we'll get into sort of specifically the decision making
yeah,
that Volkanovski made
yeah,
that ultimately led him to get knocked out. But yeah, firstly, I
yeah,
echo what you said. Credit to Ilya Tapuria. He had a clear game plan that
yeah,
he executed really well.
yeah,
Anytime you knock out arguably the one of the goats, and no doubt, in my opinion, the goat of the featherweight. Anytime you knock him out stone cold in your first, title, contention, a
yeah,
title attempt. Um, like you said, it points towards that this guy's, the future. He's the
yeah,
future of the division now,
yeah.
undefeated. As you said, all the stars in Spain, and we'll talk a bit more about what's next. But yeah, they're,
Mm-hmm.
they're lining up a card, obviously in Spain, maybe in the Real
Spain.
Madrid stadium. There's sort of been flown around, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll throw it to you, DJ, in terms of as we'll give Topuria some flowers, but Volkanovski, right? What does it mean for him? How disappointed, underwhelmed were you, and surprised that he was not able to really, execute?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of things. I think one is we. It comes back to how good Ilya Topuria is. We hadn't seen him as much, especially against top tier opposition, and we saw now against the best, right? Which is Alexander Volkanovski, not just the featherweight champion, not just any featherweight champion. In my opinion, the greatest featherweight champion in the division. Off the division, pound for pound number one last year, rightfully so. And I had some fantastic title defenses, title defenses, the longest reigning champion, all these accolades, right? And in my opinion, I thought, look, it's a tall task for Ilya Topuria, as good as he is, as crisp as his boxing is. Going against someone like Alexander Volkanovski, the champion, is going to be hard. And I honestly didn't think the knockout loss to Islam is going to play too much of a part because Volkanovski seemed like he was very intent on wanting to bounce back. That was the whole theme of it. It's like, this is the bounce back. This is the comeback. This is my opportunity to show that that doesn't matter. I put it behind me. But the thing we sort of discounted was the preparation and the hard work behind the scenes from Ilya Taporia. He believed, man. Like, that's what it is. And his belief didn't come from a misguided place. Now we know that he comes from a place of utter preparation. Um, and he had put a video. He had made a movie saying "Road to the Title." He changed his Instagram profile before the fight happened. It seemed quite foolish, and obviously, no one sort of gave him a chance. To be honest, like, there was only a few handful of people who gave him that chance to get the job done. But everything he said, he did it, man. He said he'll come in. I'll knock him out early. He did, and the way I do it, they won't talk about a rematch. And you got to sort of agree with that. The way he was clean, right? There was no controversy. It was clean. He set it up well, and he said in the post-fight press conference, one of the part of the game plan was combinations, more than just one or two combinations in bunches, and he did that, and that was like a four-fight combo. Sorry, a four-piece combo, and I think he got the third hook landed. Sort of one of the things that the commentators made note of, and I did too, and I was kind of confused. I wouldn't know if it was like a moment of sort of being in the situation, but he always backed out. Volkanovski was backing out of an exchange with his head held up, with his chin exposed, and eventually he paid the price for that. But man, Topuria was setting up the shots really nicely. Like you said, the feints were spot on. The whole first round, we saw Volkanovski sort of biting on those feints, and eventually towards the end of that round, he was getting his timing right and sort of, you know, not as much falling for those feints. But in the second round, Ilya had made the reads he needed to, and he sort of executed his game plan. Um, it was a lot. I do think, not for anything else. I don't. Not to say that he hadn't recovered enough from that knockout. We can't say that. That's for Volkanovski to say. But just in general, would have liked to see him take a little bit more time before stepping in. Um, Even if there was no knockout, we saw what the case with Israel Adesanya in terms of that um, activity, level of activity. Eventually, you know, it does take a toll on you. And we saw that in the Strickland fight. And it's a very similar story with Volkanovski, right? He fought in, he's a champion, dominant champ, fought in Feb. Not that you can never knock down a champion who wants to fight, because, you know, we as fans always want that. But also, you know, you got to strike a balance where you're just sort of not overworking yourself. And even now, he's very intent on getting back on that rematch, and I'm a bit concerned for that too. Maybe he needs to take a little bit more time. Maybe he needs to make that decision as to what he wants to do next. I think I believe his mindset and his belief was that, you know, this him being the champion was a big thing for Volkanovski. You can see that. You always saw that, you know, in terms of stepping up to the challenge, stepping up to, you know, taking on different opponents. That belt was very special for him. So now that he's lost it, and to someone like Ilya, who was riling him up leading up to the fight, and you could see they had a lot of respect. Like, you could see the level of respect Ilya had leading up to the fight. There were moments, obviously, he was disrespectful, but there were a lot of moments where he was too. And even after the fight, you know, he had nothing but praise for Volkanovski. Um, so yeah, like I think losing that belt, the way he lost the belt, you know, people obviously making that comparison to McGregor, all these things will play a part. I just feel, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I did feel maybe Volkanovski was fighting with a chip on his shoulder, wanting to prove to people, one, he can bounce back, uh, two, that, you know, he wanted to teach Ilya a lesson. Maybe that made him fight a little bit more emotional. Maybe that intervened with his sense of judgment inside the cage. Because, you know, I tend to think like he's got an extremely high fight IQ, and we spoke about it in the preview where he's able to make those adjustments and changes straight away. So, man, look, don't get me wrong, he was doing well in the fight. Up until that point, he was doing well in the fight. And look, anyone on any given day, man, no matter how good you are, you can get caught, right? Um, but it wasn't like Ilya was underperforming the whole fight for however long it lasted, and then just landed that shot and won the fight. It wasn't like that. It was a closely contested fight for as long as it lasted.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and I want to continue to choose this route in terms of Volkanovski. You know, he didn't really lose the fight. It was Topuria that won it, right? Volkanovski looked pretty solid, and no doubt, I feel like obviously he's been knocked out twice. His career is
Yeah,
on the decline, right? We can't,
yeah,
you know, that is the elephant in the room. But at
yeah,
the same time, every champion's time comes to an end, right? Not everyone can be a John Jones, right? At the end of the day, the next, sometimes it happens earlier and sometimes it goes on longer, because sometimes the next contender that comes up, you know, at different times to take the belt from you. And we just have this 27-year-old who just has killer knockout power. And I don't think Volkanovski really, you know, in all these matchups, you know, with the respect to Max and some of these other guys, you know, Volkanovski hadn't gone up against a guy with that kind of knockout power.
yeah,
Combined with, I thought Volkanovski made a grave mistake in the octagon. Right, I can't comment on his preparation and all of those things. Maybe he took him a little bit lightly. Maybe he had that chip on his shoulder. I agree with you there in terms of
yeah,
his ego at play a little bit. Now that I think about it, that kind of old man persona and that joke, you know, maybe he was a little bit too distracted with all of that. I felt like at the end of the day, yeah, he made a mistake in trying to go toe to toe with Topuria when instead of fight like the champ, which is fight as a smarter, 35-year-old versus a 27-year-old. I thought he should have continued to fight on the outside, DJ. Continue the leg kicks.
Yeah.
When he was up against the cage, cover up, clinch, get out of there. And obviously, you see in slow mo, we've seen the knockout a million times, and my God, what a sweet knockout it is. But you
Yeah,
see
it
the
was lights
moment,
out.
he's knocked out, like he
Yeah.
was trying, Volk was trying to counter, but he just
Yeah.
was just didn't get it off on time, and it was
Yeah.
sweet chin music. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just too quick. That's the thing. Like Ilya's speed was, man, like it was so. How do I even say it? It was just insanely fast. Like, even the combinations he threw, it popped and it come out. He did say Volkanovski's jab was quite fast, which it was, and we saw in the first round Volk snap his head back a couple of times. But look, he knew he had to take those shots. He came in. He had faith in his chin. And look, like I said, man, he's 27 years old, right? One of the things that what Ilya kept saying leading up to the fight, like I'm the new generation of fighters. You'll see. He told all of us what he was going to do, and he went out and did it. Um, and man, like I think that's what we're seeing, the new generation of fighters, the evolution. Like you can argue that Ilya now, especially after having seen this fight as well, that there is. I think Ilya matches him in every department: strength, power, uh, endurance, cardio, conditioning, everything. Like if this had gone 5 rounds, I think Ilya could have endured. But obviously, Volkanovski would have stood a better chance, and he was up on the scorecard when that happened as well. Um, it's yeah. Look, at the end of the day, man, like if you fight long enough, but you eventually your day comes. You can't always stay on top. That's the nature of the game. Especially, it's not just in this sport, but any sport we see great. Individuals, great sporting teams. They reach that peak, and then they gather their accolades, and eventually something or someone comes along, and then the game moves on quite fast. Same time last year we were talking about Alex Volkanovski, literally same time last year this event happened, right? And then even though he had a loss, it was a tough fought fight. A lot of people thought he won. He was up at on top of the pile in terms of pound for pound. Talk about how one of the greatest pound for pound fighters, and today we're talking about, hey, what's next for Volk? I mean, is it going to be hard? That's the nature of the game. Very unfortunate, but the game moves quick. The one thing we cannot deny is that his greatness is etched in history. That's not going to go away. He was the longest reigning featherweight champion. One of the longest reigning featherweight champions. He had a dominant title defense. His rise to the title was unparalleled in terms of the who's and who's of that division. He fought everyone, all the former champs. That could never be. And he dared to be great. He went to 155, fought one of the best there, gave fight of his life. Second time around, stepped up on 10 days notice. All that, that storyline is quite legendary. Just like how he is, he's a legendary fighter, and that's never going to go away. And obviously, he's going to bounce back. He's a champion. He's not, by no means is he done. It's just the question comes from a mental perspective. Can he still now compete at the top? Right, like the Islam one was always going to be okay. It was a short notice fight, but now Ilya's come in full training camp. His division that he's been undefeated so far, and not to lose, just lose, but lose so emphatically. It just brings that doubt creeps into you, and eventually that starts to show in your performance. So that's what I'm worried about for Volkanovski. Like I mean, look, if anyone can do it, it's him. His mental fortitude, the championship medal, everything that he possesses. I hope he does, man. Like, I mean, he's extremely beloved, especially in this part of the world, and we've been following him and being a fan of him, and we'll continue to be a fan of him till he fights and even after. But I am keen to see that comeback. What do you think is next? What do you think? I mean, usually it's very common to talk about what's next for the champion, but let's talk about Volk. Like, what do you think is next for Volk?
Man, yeah, you said a lot of things I agree with, and I'm glad you said, well, I'm glad you think that, Volk has it in him to come back. He's not done.
Yeah,
In sports, DJ, there tends to be a common overreaction
yeah,
to a great champion when they do lose, and I know the
yeah,
age is there. And look,
yeah,
I said it earlier. I think his career is clearly on the decline now. But
yeah,
that said, I feel like you put Volkanovski in the octagon against anyone else in that division outside of Ilya Topuria, and I
yeah,
think he's still the favourite, right?
yeah,
So he's by no means done, but as you said, he's got to smartly manage, what he
yeah,
does next.
yeah,
And Topuria is the future. Once
yeah,
again, hats off
yeah.
to him. But yeah,
That's
in
off, man.
response to your question, man, Volkanovski should take 6 months off. I feel
Yeah,
um, at least 5 months
yeah,
off. Don't even think about getting in the octagon until later in the year,
yeah,
and then yeah, fight another person in the featherweight, and then
yeah,
get a convincing win.
yeah,
Do it the old-fashioned way, like all champions that have lost their belt. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not just going to compare this DJ because he's from the same region, but Israel Adesanya,
yeah,
his world crashed when Alex Pereira knocked him out,
yeah,
right? And people, that was crazy.
yeah,
Kamaru Usman was a
yeah,
champion and he got leg kicked, knocked out.
yeah, yeah,
He's come back and won some fights. So, yeah,
yeah,
Volkanovski's just got to restore that pride. He's got to take his next matchup really seriously, like Robert Whittaker did. It was all business. When Whittaker lost to Dricus, he learnt, as we'll
yeah,
talk about in the next fight, he
yeah,
learnt from his mistakes. And I really feel like Volkanovski just made some mistakes in the cage. You could say Topuria was, executed, well-deserved win, is the champion. I tend to look at it like, okay, decisions in the cage. Did Volkanovski look overmatched? Did he look old where he was like dominated and, backed down and took heaps of damage? No. He was
yeah,
simply caught with a really sweet right hand. So
yeah,
that's not like a Tony Ferguson where people are saying where like he takes continuous damage and he just looks like he's a couple of steps slow. Like Volkanovski did not look really slow. I mean,
no,
he won the first round, so
yeah,
yeah, that's my response, DJ. Just take another matchup and win. What do you
yeah.
think?
Man, yeah, like look, before I answer that, yeah, I agree with your take in terms of he did not look slow. It wasn't like he was losing that fight. Like we said, he won the first round. I think he won the first round in the judges' scorecards and many other scorecards. I think even verdict had him up in that first round. He was matching Ilya's sort of pace. He didn't look like the older fighter. It looked like two evenly matched fighters. And that's sort of where I guess you got to give props to Ilya. It did look like two evenly matched fighters. Whereas one would expect Ilya to be way behind because of his lack of experience, but it wasn't the case. Um, okay, well, what's next for Volk? It's an interesting thing. Like my personal preference, right, is that he moves up to 155. To be honest, right. But seeing his post-fight press conference and he was in good spirits. That was great to see. I think it's the uh, fact that he lost that belt that's eating him up from the inside. So he wants to get that belt back. He wants that. He kept mentioning the rematch. I think in every sentence, which shows how much he wants it. And he wants it because one, he wants that belt because that means a lot to him, and also to sort of now it's not only to just shut the doubters outside, maybe to even shut the noise inside him to say, look, well, what happened? Like, have I actually lost? That touch. So he wants to prove that, and he knows that he's a champion. So I think he's going to pursue that 145-pound belt rematch, and I think his desire to get that belt, which I hope he doesn't do, the desire to get that belt back, and if given an opportunity to fight maybe in 4 months, I believe he will take it. I don't think he should, right? But I think if it is the 145, but then you look, Volkanovski said a lot of accurate things in that post-fight press conference. He's done nothing but good things as a champion. He's been a great company guy for the UFC. He's always going out of his way to save cards and all these things, right? So giving a rematch to him, is more than fair. If you say that, not just on merits of stepping up on short notice, but being a long reigning champion, 5 title defenses, all of these things. So, um, if he were to get that fight, my preference is let Ilya fight someone else first. That rematch is always going to be there, right? That rematch is always going to be there. Let Ilya fight someone else first, maybe a Mosvar, Evloev, right, or the winner of Yair Rodriguez versus Brian Ortega. Max is fighting Justin Gaethje. Depending on how that fight goes, Max is another option as well. That's an exciting fight, man. Max Holloway versus Ilya Topuria is a good fight too. Let someone else take that shot because the rematch won't go anywhere. Right? I think Volk needs to take the time, spend some time with family, maybe even take some time away from the game a little bit. Right? Don't let the game consume him too much, and take a small break from training, and then come back, get into camp, let them play, let the division play out, right? And then get back and get that rematch, get that belt. I think that's probably the that'll be like the safest option in terms of sort of getting the maximum out of those fights. Also, it comes down to their team and the decisions they make. That's just my preference, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
ultimately, eventually, to go up to 155, that'll be the best thing for Volk and also us fans in terms of seeing the best version of him. Because the older you get, the harder it's going to get the weight cuts, and you're depleting yourself. When you're younger and you're depleting yourself, that's fine. The body will re-nourish yourself a lot quicker. When you're older, obviously, everything functions a lot slower. So you need to be mindful of that. So the less you're cutting weight, and the less you're depleting yourself, the better for you. That's where you see all
Yep.
the fighters being more successful in higher weight classes as opposed to lower weight classes.
Yeah, no doubt, man. You're 100% on the money. I agree. He should not take a rematch if it's offered. Let Topuria defend it once. You never know. He might lose the belt to someone and then it opens back up for Volkanovski. But more so, the point I'll make is nothing will get, the confidence back more than a win.
Mm.
Prove to people that you're not done. Fight
Yeah,
a top contender and show them that you're
yeah,
still Alex Volkanovski. And
yeah,
and really, it should be a cakewalk. He really, if he's still Alex Volkanovski, he should step in the octagon and whoop ass on somebody else. And then people say,
yeah,
oh, you know what? It was a bad day. We
yeah,
could really stomach this rematch again at some point. But
yeah,
I don't really know if people are really interested in it immediately. And then if he loses it again, then he's not going to get that shot again. So I
yeah.
reckon it's even a easier pathway back to the title if he just fights a top 8 person, a top 5
Yeah.
person, and like I said, if he's still Alex DJ, he should wipe the floor with him.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I mean, he doesn't even have to fight another contender. He could just hang back and wait. I don't think financially it seems like it's not an issue, right? It's just
But
more he's
yeah, how much of him being 35 do you think is factoring in? Because he says I keep want to
it
be
will.
active. Because I think he doesn't really want to be knows he's going to be around for much
Yeah.
longer. You know.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That timeline is rapid. That door is rapidly closing, of course. Right. As I said, like the lighter the division, the harder it gets to compete in the top level as an older fighter. We've seen that. We saw that with Frankie Edgar, Jose Aldo, all these fighters. Um, well, uh, I still think he should take that time off. Right. I think it will help prolong that career too. You don't want to. Uh, like you said, you don't want another loss. That's one. But you also don't want to continue to compromise yourself by putting yourself in a position where you're not just losing, but you're getting finished, right? Um, I just can't help but regret that short notice fight that he took. I do believe this all started, or that was the butterfly. This is the butterfly effect of that. I think the taking that short notice fight probably was quite unfortunate. As much as it is commendable, and we will always commend that because lack a better word, man, you need balls to do that. And you know, Walk's proven that he's got some good gigantic ones in terms of taking that fight and who he was fighting in Islam. But that knockout, we said it in the preview. A loss to Volkanovski, although at the time it didn't seem possible. But if he loses, it's going to be a little bit difficult because now he's coming off 2 losses. But today, having seen the event completed, he's not only coming off 2 losses, but 2 knockout losses, 2 emphatic losses. And that's definitely going to play a big factor in terms of the mindset, preparation, and all these kind of things. I think he knows himself best, man. That's the one thing that we can say, right? He knows himself best, and he's got a good team around him. I think we just got to wait and see what they do and what he does.
Yeah, I think the loss, but more so the activity, DJ, in my opinion. It's no coincidence Israel kind of looked how he did against Strickland, and I feel like people can't forget Alex Volkanovski was extremely active, more than any other champ, right? He churned through those title defenses, all the
Yep.
wars with Max, then it was the
Yep.
Ortega, then it was
Yep.
Vera, sorry, was it Cheeto
Um,
Vera? Was it
no, so he fought Ortega, then he fought Max
Ortega?
again,
Yep.
and then he fought Yair Rodriguez.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so it was quite in a short period of time, man. And then the weight cut against
Yep.
this one, and then the 2
Yep.
against Islam. Like, yeah, it's just incredibly active, and I feel like, yeah, he's feeling the brunt of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And he fought Zombie as well. He fought the Korean Zombie, remember? So, yeah,
Yeah,
well, look,
that's right.
one thing we can say is that we obviously wish him the best and the quickest of recoveries in terms of any injuries. I don't think there was any injuries, but just a knockout, that blow. And obviously we'll continue to support him in his journey and whatever he does as fans, as someone, as beneficiaries of his, um, you know, fights and what he's given to us fans. We're always going to support him.
Yep, no doubt. And we'll continue this conversation. But the rest of the card, DJ, the co-main event delivered in spades, right? How action-packed was that? You said you lost your voice, right? Take us through the whole
Man,
experience.
man, from the moment Whittaker started walking out to the point that the fight was over, I couldn't sit down in one place. I was nervous. If I had any heart diseases, it would have been fatal for me. I would have been in a lot of trouble, especially at the end of that first round, man. Like I think it's now slowly starting to become a pattern, which I hope doesn't continue. Where Whittaker, starts the fight, and towards the end of that first round, gets into a little bit of trouble. And not always, but we've seen in a few. We saw in the Darryl Till fight, the Adesanya fight, the first one, the second one, the Costa fight. I saw in the Dricus fight where he got taken down. So I think it's just I don't know what it is. Maybe he's going in. Probably he's got nerves as well, and then he tries to sort of do what he does, and maybe gets caught. But man, in terms of a performance, that was just a statement-making performance, in my opinion. I thought both guys did extremely well. They were, uh, delivered. Costa's been away from the game for a very long time, but man, he came in, he made weight, and he delivered. Man, like I can't think of a Costa fight that hasn't been entertaining. Right, I think Costa's great. One of those rare instances I felt where both guys' stock went up. Right, and Whittaker's back in the win column. There's a lot of chatter about it was a close fight, robbery, split decision. But I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but outside of that spinning back kick, which rocked Whittaker in the first round, right? And that was what 10 seconds of that fight. He was winning the remainder of the fight. He got the better of the exchanges. He was landing more. The strike ratio was almost 2-1. And there was obviously no grappling exchanges, but Whittaker was fast, quick. He was wearing a bit of damage, but we've seen that in fighters. Some damages, take on damage quicker than the others. Like the Nate Diaz's, and Whittaker's probably one of them where, like, obviously he starts to show that damage, and sometimes that could be misinterpreted as taking a lot of damage, which isn't the case. Not taking on damage, but losing the fight. which wasn't the case. I thought Whittaker was a comprehensive win. I didn't for 1 second going into that third round towards the last minute of it. I did not even the first round. I thought Whittaker won. Yes, he rocked him, but he was winning up until then. Okay, he didn't hit the canvas. But if we were to give the round, he didn't. It was a clear Whittaker round up until then, and then he got rocked, but he still fought back. And let's talk about 10 more seconds. Well, first there wasn't 10 more seconds, right? I do think even if there was 10 more seconds, he would have survived. So yeah, like I mean, it's irrelevant to the equation. I think 14 minutes and 50 seconds of the fight, Whittaker was winning. So yeah, like they say. I mean, if you are giving that round to Costa, that's fine. But regardless, 2 and 3, but easily Whittaker's rounds.
Yeah, I feel like people just maybe have an issue with that 27-30,
Yeah,
one of those judges, which, yeah, to me, like I can make a case for both. Like I really feel
yeah,
like it was comprehensive from Whittaker,
yeah.
but it wasn't like Whittaker was completely dominating either.
It
As you
wasn't
know, we
clean.
know,
Yeah,
yeah, he took a little bit of damage too, but
yeah,
his strikes were quicker.
yeah,
He was striking more often.
yeah,
Obviously, Paulo Costa, he's the eraser for a reason,
yeah,
right? When he hits you, right, not that many people can take it. So yeah,
yeah,
that showed me that Whittaker, really has a lot left in the tank, right? People thought, he's lost his chin.
yeah,
Obviously, it just goes to show how strong Dricus, Duplessis' jab is.
yeah,
You know, and not all leg kicks obviously can affect you the same. It just depends where it hits you in the,
yeah,
in the neck or the jaw or whatever. But yeah, I love the story to come out of this, DJ, is that he's found his animal instincts, Whittaker. I mean, what does this mean for him now in the division, and then also Paulo Costa, because yeah, I thought he was really, really good as well.
yeah.
I want to give Paulo Costa credit, and Dana was correct. He looks like he still has a lot left as well. So,
Oh,
great,
plenty, plenty.
best fight of the night, in my opinion.
Fight. I was surprised this didn't get fight of the night. I was disappointed and surprised. Yeah, man. Look, but plus Costa looked huge in there compared to Whittaker, and Whittaker stayed true to his words, man. He said he's trying to knock him out, and he did. He was trying extremely hard, and shows the durability of Costa. And he's only been knocked TKO'd once, and that was Adesanya in that one instance. But outside of that, he has been quite durable. Um, I think for Whittaker, I'd like to see him fight Strickland. I think that's the quickest way to the title. There is no, I don't think there's any, unless other fighters are injured and they're trying to make their main event. There is definitely a case for the rematch, right? Like Whittaker's come back and had an emphatic win. It was unanimous decision, rightfully so, in my opinion. And look, he's come back, former champ, and he wants another crack at Dricus, who's got a win over him. So that's an interesting scenario. However, I think there are a few people ahead of him, which is obviously Adesanya is one of them. Who's had a fight, and then if you're going to talk fairness, the Killer Gorilla. He's there as well. Kananaya, right there in the mix. He's had a win. He's cut weight for that previous title fight. Was a backup fighter. You can even argue a Sean Strickland rematch, which I don't think is going to happen. Right. So I believe they will go the direction of Adesanya versus Duplessis for UFC Africa. Dana White all but confirmed that that's happening soon. Right. So it makes sense to take that fight there, which will be huge, right? And South Africa, I believe they're going specifically to South Africa. Then you got Strickland, who's former champ, just lost his belt to a close decision to Dricus. And I think if Whittaker can get a win over Strickland, that brings him right back as the number one contender, I believe. Right. So that'll be a good move, and I think even in the post-fight conference, they were alluding to that. That's probably the next fight to make for Costa. Man, like there's plenty of options. Like I said, his stock didn't go down. It was a close fight. Um, he lost the fight clearly, but it was still a close fight. I mean, he wasn't outgunned by any measure. And he was doing his usual taunts and stuff, which was a bit annoying towards the end because it was clear it was losing. But then, rather than taunt, I wish he was going forward or trying to make something happen. Every time he tried to blitz, every time he went, Whittaker got him. Whittaker was too fast, too accurate, and he was feeling it. Costa was feeling it because we've seen Costa march people down, and he wasn't doing that with Whittaker. Apart from that one point when he had Whittaker rocked, every other opportunity he was being very cautious. If Strickland were to fight Whittaker, then I'd like to see Costa versus Kanonaya. That's another good fight where he can sort of jump back into the top five conversation as well. So there is that option too. Hey, and let's not forget one of the fights that I wanted to see happen was a Hamzat fight. Hamzat and Costa were scheduled to fight, and seeing how Costa fought, man, that would be a tough fight um, for Hamzat. So I'd like to see that fight. Maybe Costa and Hamzat can actually finally settle that. And let's not forget the UFC Abu Dhabi card is getting a rejig. Right? And Costa seems like he didn't take any long-term injuries, so maybe they'll make that fight.
Yeah, definitely, man. I love exactly what you sort of spelled out for the
Yeah,
division. Yeah, Izzy Dricus, really looking forward to it. It seems like, yeah, Strickland and Robert Whittaker does seem like that
yeah,
seems like the logical thing as well. And then, yeah, Costa can continue to fight some big names. There's Vittori who's going to fight soon. Um,
yeah,
yeah, one of my favorite divisions, man, middleweight, and it
absolutely, man.
always will be. And I really
Yeah,
feel like maybe Australia's own Jack Della Maddalena
yeah,
will eventually move up into that division as well.
yeah.
Yeah, perhaps after he's maybe won the
Potentially,
title
yeah.
in welterweight. Um,
Yeah,
but
potentially. Hey, also they could give Whittaker Hamzat as well. Like we know that it's no secret the UFC wants Hamzat to be fast tracked to the title. So yeah, they could give Whittaker the title. Whittaker and Hamzat. They could make the Whittaker Hamzat fight with the hopes that Hamzat gets the win, and then that presents a strong case for the title shot.
yeah, 100%, man.
Yeah,
And yeah, the next fight on the main card, it was a solid fight. I felt
yeah,
it's getting a bit of crap. DJ,
yeah.
what did you think of the Ian Machado Gary win
It
over
was
Jeff Hands of Steel Neal?
it was a close fight. I did think close fight, but not an action-packed one. It was an average fight in my opinion. I think Ian Gary did well. I think he managed distance well. He didn't engage as much, and he was smart. But when he did let his combinations go, striking is a sight to behold. Extremely accurate. He is calm in there. I didn't like them touching gloves every 5 seconds, which doesn't like you're on a fight, right? Especially like a closely contested fight. Um, but yeah, I do think the right person won though. I think Ian Gary, I thought won the fight. I can see the split decision. But it was in a fight where if the other person had won, we would have been too mad. No, I don't think so. But yeah, I do believe Ian Gary won the fight. I think the fans are letting the outside stuff come into play when they're giving their thoughts on the fight as well, because obviously there is this current hatred towards Ian Gary, and they're trying to project that with saying the decision was inaccurate, etc. But it wasn't a bad fight. It wasn't a terrible fight. We've seen some really bad fights, man. Like it wasn't a what was our fight? The title for Rose Namajunas versus Carl Esparza. It wasn't that. Like there was still action, and when they came together, like there were some good exchanges.
Yeah, so for me, the excitement was in the technicality. So,
Yeah,
not every fight, if you're a purist fight fan, not every fight you'll understand will go the same, right? This was a style fight where it was long rangey Gary versus a
yeah,
guy with power, that wants to get on the inside and knock you out. So
yeah,
yeah, I could understand, and especially how I feel with 3 round fights, right?
yeah,
It's literally cutthroat, right? You can't afford, if you lose one round, the first round, then you got to do something special to
yeah,
come back. So yeah, I understand how fighters really manage the fight, and I think to your point, Ian Gary really managed this fight. He managed to the win. Now, was it
yeah.
flashy? No. Was it exciting for fans, the casual fans? Not necessarily, but yeah, that's just how it goes for 3 rounds. A quick word from you in terms of what's next, for Gary.
I like the call out. I like the Colby Covington call out. I think if he wins, obviously it puts him right in that title picture, which I think a lot of people want, especially the UFC. He seems quite clear in terms of laying out his plans, and it seems like the next step in that is Colby Covington. I feel like the UFC likes it too, and it'll be a good opportunity for Colby Covington too. Like after that loss to Leon Edwards, to be able to come back and um, you, try and fight like an up and coming killer in Ian Gary. So yeah, actually like that fight. If not that fight, then maybe we could see like a Sean Brady versus Ian Gary. That'll be a good fight. Vicente Luque, they were meant to fight. Obviously Gary had to pull out. So maybe that'll be a good fight too, because Vicente Luque is a pretty dangerous fighter too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you got me excited hearing that.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, no, yeah, two guys with huge futures in the organization. Now, a huge win from Marab. Talk about the machine domination and Triple C, right? I always felt like Triple C was going to lose, but yeah, it seems like this is the end of the road for him, DJ. But
absolutely.
Marab, this was his moment.
100%, man. I think Triple C is done. When I say done, I think we probably won't see him fight again. I think one is accomplish everything he had to accomplish, and what we saw last night or yesterday was, the how fast the sports moved on, and then again, yet another next generation fighter. I don't know what's with these Georgians and their intensity, but yeah, man, same with Marab. First round was a close round. I'll give it to Triple C. It was close. I still think Marab won that. Barab was pulling away towards the end of it, and in the beginning, Triple C had some good success, but then man, like it was just domination after that. Like, I mean, I've never seen anyone ragdoll someone like that. And keep in mind, this is a double champ, Olympic champion in wrestling, and man, that one particular part of the fight that sort of made me go wow was when he lifted him up and just carried him across the octagon and slammed him in front of Zuckerberg. It was just, yeah, it was a bit weird seeing Zuckerberg walk out Volk as well. Like, what the hell is he doing in there? But yeah, like, man, absolute domination. Next, it has to be the title shot for him. Doesn't matter. Like, I know they've been talking about, or Sugar Sean's been talking about fighting Ilya at some point. I still want to see the winner of Sean O'Malley versus Vera to fight Wiley Stively, man. Like he's done, he's paid his dues. He's got the win streak. He's been dominating fights. He's destroyed three former champs. Yes, it's a decision win, but it's not any like lackluster decisions. They're like absolute dominations, and that's what we're seeing. I do think he's the best bantamweight in the division, in my humble opinion. I know there's a lot of chatter about Umar as well, Umar Nurmagomedov. But look, similar skill set, and Marab seems very strong for that division too. So yeah, like I mean, I'd like to see him fight for the title next.
So you think he beat Sugar Sean then?
I do believe so. Yes, unless he catches him, yeah, I do believe so.
Well, I'm looking forward to that fight. Yep, definitely deserved. And yeah, Marab has got a really good shot. Yeah, in my opinion, I love that style. Look forward to seeing that fight eventually
Yeah.
happen soon. Um, and yeah, the rest of the card, DJ. Before we give it our grade, what stood out to you?
Oh, and
Mackenzie Dern, the feature prelim.
feature prelim was pretty good. They got fight of the night. I still thought the Whittaker Costa fight was better, but man, like Dern's got the dog in her. Lemos was landing some heavy shots, but Mackenzie Dern walked through fire, and then she had her moments too. There were a couple of moments when she almost had a choke locked in, all these kind of things. So I thought it was a great fight, great prelim, feature prelim. I also liked the Anthony Hernandez fight, man. That was pretty sick too. Like, I mean, he just jumps in and takes on a dangerous guy. He's on a win streak himself. He's one of those dark horses in that middleweight division, right? And he sort of called the tap or called the finish before it even happened. As he was choking him, there were some badass moments in this card. That's what I liked about it. The Marab talking to Zuckerberg while trying to choke. Um, Triple C, all these things. I mean, it was pretty good. We got to when we did the preview, this wasn't the case, but we got to talk about Junior Tuffa stepping up, man, on 24 hours notice, and like, look, unfortunate, sort of like we hurt his leg in the fight, so obviously couldn't continue. But man, that's just commendable what he did. Stepped up, so soon, and to be able to do that and for a dangerous guy in Lima, and yeah, pretty good, man. Like solid card. Yeah, I love the card. Well, I want to hear your score before I give mine.
Oh, yeah, definitely. As we continue to talk about the card and going through the emotions, reliving it all again, DJ. What delivers for a card for me is that card that takes you on those emotions where it's triumph and then it's disappointment, and then it's excitement, it's everything. And I really feel like it was a very, very solid card. I'm going to give it an 8.
Yeah, nice.
8. Anytime you get the changing of a belt, obviously it's significant, and I don't think a card could be any less than an 8, because it's opened the doors for the featherweight
Yeah,
as well, and it's set up some really nice fights, and I'm really pumped for Rob Whittaker in that the middleweight.
yeah,
Taking aside all the bias, DJ, anytime a fighter that's a former champ can just sort of bounce back after enduring a few losses and
yeah,
doubts and all of that, to beat a really solid opponent, Paulo Costa, the way he
yeah,
did. He looked like the Whittaker when he fought Darren Till, super
yeah,
sharp. When he
yeah.
beat Vittori,
Corey, yeah,
he
yeah,
looks like he's still, he could still be that Whittaker. But to some people, what they're saying is it's sort of 50-50. Sometimes his chin on a certain day is strong, and then sometimes it's not. But I feel like they may be underplaying, Dricus du Plessis, who did go on to win
yeah.
win the title.
The title, yeah,
So,
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah, man.
what do
Like
you give it?
100%. Look, the thing is, like you said, taking the bias away. When it was just the storyline of this card, especially for the key fights, was overcoming odds, changing of guard. Being able to coming out and like this Ilya's storyline is just stunning, man. Like sitting back and looking at it, sort of the lead up and everything. That confidence. You can't help but take inspiration from that, and can't help but applaud that. Now, Volkanovski's resilience, showing his championship medal, his reaction afterwards, Whittaker, bouncing back and going through a hard fought fight. That was, like, in my opinion, fight of the night. Both guys, delivered, gave it their all. Seeing Marab just demolish Triple C, a former, not just a former champ, but a legend of the sport. Um, there was a lot of those, so many great moments. The crowd was fantastic. I'm giving it an 8.5.
Solid. Yeah,
Yeah,
very, very solid. 8.5. It's going to be a lot to top that, but I feel
yeah.
like the next two will, DJ. Uh,
Pretty
but
big cards.
the night wasn't done. We got the huge announcement
Yeah,
after
yeah.
Dana White on social media. We have our main event, finally. What what
Finally,
what
yeah.
what, what is your
All the
reaction? I
prediction.
haven't even got a chance to ask you. What
Yeah,
do you think?
yeah. Like, I mean, it wasn't like the way they built. I mean, this was the next fight in the light heavyweight division, right? And we the way Dana built it up was as if it's going to be a super fight. This main event is going to be a super fight, like either a double champ fight or a superstar returning, which we potentially thought was going to be McGregor. None of those. It was none of that. As a fight, solid fight, man. Like the fight that needs to happen next. We did predict in our prediction for what's going to be 300. We did predict that Alex Pereira is going to be involved in some capacity, and that came true. And instead of, we thought it was going to be Adesanya for the 205 belt, instead it's going to be Jamal Hill's returning to fight Alex Pereira. So, man, pretty solid fight. Very strong main event. Yeah, it wasn't the super fight that Dana was sort of alluding to at the beginning of when the card was coming together. We're very happy to see that overall the card is pretty solid, man. Like, you got look at the main card. You got Pereira and Jamal Hill, Zhang Weili and Chao Nana fighting for the women's strawweight title. Then you got the BMF title, Max Holloway and Justin Gage, you got Aljamain Sterling and Calvin Cater, you got Charles Oliveira and Armin Sarukian. So man, that's a hell of a main card, to be honest. So yeah, it's a solid card, solid throw. I would say on par. Like I mean, there was chatter about 299 is better. I don't think so. I think 299 is strong, but I think 300 is strong too. It's a very good card. Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, Dana did say there's one more fight to add. So yeah,
Yeah, I feel like the way it was built up, as you said, maybe a little underwhelming, but if so, maybe a little.
yeah,
What this symbolizes to me, DJs, I feel like the biggest names in the UFC are still John Jones, Conor McGregor. Like if you
yeah,
can't put them on the card, then yeah, I get it. Like they need to
mm,
save them for the other pay-per-views.
yeah,
But what does the UFC do? They deliver great pay-per-views all year round, right? They
yeah,
should not need to stack every single fighter on one card just because it's UFC
correct.
300, right? This
Yeah,
is a very, very, very good main event still, and a very
yeah,
good
solid.
story that I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to. Jamal Hill was the was the champ.
yeah,
Um, through tragedy and injury, he had to relinquish the belt, and I think it's cool that for 300 he's going to get his return
yeah,
against the another future face of the UFC. With
yeah.
Izzy perhaps his career maybe on the decline as well. Alex Pereira is one of the faces of the UFC now.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Pereira is a massive star at the moment, man. But I do think Izzy's, still in the mix, and he's going to be his next fight's going to be massive. I think he's going to bounce back in emphatic fashion. Um, but yeah, look, pretty big name, Alex Pereira. Do and he's one of those. If you were to a short list of stars in the UFC, Alex Pereira is one of them. And let's not forget, like you said, Jamal Hill never lost the title, and also Jamal Hill won the title by beating Alex Pereira's mentor and coach in and close friend in Glover Teixeira. So it's a pretty good storyline, a story arc there. The fight's fibers. I mean, Jamal Hill, you know, there's not one boring Jamal Hill fight, and there's not one boring Alex Pereira fight. So there you go. That should say it. Everything you need to know about the fight. I'm keen to see what the next fight is. So the other fight is. But I also was surprising was Dana saying Leon Edwards was offered three fights, and he obviously said yes to all of them. I'm just trying to rack my brain. Who would that three be? Because Bilal Muhammad seems to say yeah he wants 300 still. He's open to it, but um, yeah, like I don't know. I'm going to assume Hamzat, Shavkat, and maybe Islam for a double champ one. I don't know, but I think the Islam injury couldn't have come at a worse time for the UFC because it would have been good to have him in that card. I mean, imagine a double champ fight between Islam and Leon Edwards. That's huge.
Yeah, I feel like Leon Edwards that they're safe for UK. Obviously,
Yeah,
you can't really do a huge UK show or an event
yeah,
without Leon. So yeah, that makes sense.
yeah,
But yeah, I'm as curious as you are. But yeah, really looking forward to it. A big fight night coming up this week soon
yeah,
as well. It's been just man action packed. I'm still catching my
yeah.
breath, but look forward to 299 on the road to UFC 300.
Yeah.
DJ will be back and we'll be talking soon.
Talk soon,
Yeah,
and yeah, hope you liked our recap, guys, and let us know your thoughts.
yeah, definitely. So many storylines to come out of it. And thanks again, DJ. See you soon.
Thank you, CT.
Yep. Thanks,